Everyone. Hello. You are not, you are absolutely on time. It is 7 o'clock. The second hand has not quite reached 7:01. So impeccable timing. But yeah, let me just welcome everyone to the Community and Tourism Committee. This is the first committee that I will be chairing that is quorate. So the first meeting that I was about to chair was not quorate, so we had, I guess it was a nice informal introduction to how you run a meeting. But now it is, the pressure's on. We've got quite a full agenda. And so for those who, is it anyone's first committee meeting? Oh, okay, 2 people. Right, so what I've learned, I will share with you, is that basically we've got a formal agenda, and I'll go through that. You'll have all seen it, and we'll basically start with apologies. We'll go into interest minutes, matters arising, and then there's an open session. So before I start anything else, I need to ask if there's been any formal apologies.
Yes, we had apologies from Councillor Wright. We haven't received apologies from Councillor Motta, so he may still arrive.
Okay. And the next part is about interests. Now, interest basically means if you've got a conflict of interest, i.e. something's going to be coming up that could have a personal impact or that you're personally connected to, you'd need to state if there's anything on this agenda that you would need to declare an interest on. If that makes sense. So is there any declarations of interest? No? Right then, let's get into the minutes. Before, at this point, I have had a request from a councillor who's not on the committee but is interested in a piece of an item on the agenda, which is Christmas trees, which comes under the events report. So the request has been whether that can be moved up on the agenda, because it's actually quite late. It's actually quite late down into the agenda. It's basically currently it's agenda item 13, which, given the timings, would take us probably till about 8:30. So we're very well within. It's very okay to say no. You can stay and wait for the whole committee meeting till we get to events if you want to, or we can make a decision to move the events further up the agenda so the councillor in question can have that conversation and then go home and hopefully have some dinner and do whatever else that councillors do when they're not in this room. So the first thing, do I have to get a proposer for that? Right. So would anyone like to propose that the events, and what I'd probably suggest is that it comes before the if we can, and if it fits and Amy's happy, that it would come before we do grant applications, but after open session for electors, but given there's no open selector here, then it would come quite early on. So how would people feel about that? How would you feel, Amy? Yeah? So I'd need someone to propose that, and then I'd need someone to second it. And just again, for people who are new to the committee, you've probably seen this already, but the way that we agree anything is that you need a proposer and you need a seconder, and it just formalises the decisions that we've made, basically. So do I have a... You can second. And would the rest of the committee vote in favour of that? Yeah? Okay, so events will be discussed after minutes and matters arising. Great. So the first part of the minutes is basically just to agree that they are accurate. So this isn't about matters arising, that it's purely, is everything that is written down in these minutes as accurate as you remember them at the last meeting. And this, just as a reminder, is the last formal committee meeting that we had. So I'm not going to suggest we do page by page. I'm going to ask people to just have a couple of minutes to read through the whole of those minutes, if that's all right. And then if anyone finds anything that they feel is inaccurate, then you can let us know. So you've got a minute or two just to go through those. And as there was probably, is it just Valerie who was in that meeting? Or? Okay. So are these minutes accurate? An accurate representation of that meeting, yes. And so in this usual format, I would need a proposer and seconder to agree that they are an accurate account of the meeting. And I think because it's probably you and I that are the only people there, Valerie, I would suggest if you want to propose, I'll second. Yep. Looking to Joe's given me kind, we've got a hand signal thing so I know if I'm if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Just to say, Chair, as well, after you've proposed and seconded, just for members who agree, just show your hands that you agree in favour. You can, of course, vote against, or you could also vote to abstain. So if members weren't there, there's a couple of new faces in the room, you can abstain. That means you're not voting in for or against, you're just essentially abstaining from the vote.
Right. So can I have a proposer? You were the only one that was there, Valerie. You and I were the only ones that were there who were in the current committee. So, and I'll second.
And then we can all, well, there's only you and me there can say yes.
Yeah, vote in favour. I mean, you can just vote in favour if you weren't there, but you can also abstain as well.
You can vote in favour. You don't have to necessarily be at the meeting to vote in favour, but it's completely up to yourselves. Once you've had your votes for, then you ask for any votes for abstentions, so we can record it in the minutes.
Okay. So all in favour of those minutes? Okay. So we've got 3 abstentions, 2... right, and then the next section is about matters arising. So within the minutes, most of the matters arriving will probably be also on this agenda. So this is basically if there's anything in those minutes that arises that we're not covering today in the meeting. Now, the only thing that I've seen that I think it was a matters arising that's not in the minutes is the Nan Sledden meeting that we had about the new signage. So I don't know if anyone else has seen any matters arising that they'd like to talk through, but that's the one that I think probably is worthy of, even if it's just a sort of very short update on what happened since the meeting where we basically said they needed to rethink their design proposals for Welcome to Nan Sledden and Newquay.
Yeah, I mean, Councillor Martin was present as well, but essentially we had a very productive meeting, I felt, where they took on board the feedback that was given to them in regards to the name, the wording on the sign, which was originally of Nan Sledden and Newquay. They've now amended that, and it will just read "Welcome to Newquay." And we've also requested that it has underneath "Twinned with Dinard," because we are twinned with the French town of Dinard, so that's also going to go underneath. So that's what they're working to now. The design, the imagery will stay the same, because I think collectively we were happy with that. It was just the wording, and that will be changed.
That's great. And do we have any update on sort of when that would go in?
I don't have a timescale, I'm afraid, as of yet. But I can give them a chase and let you know.
Great. Anything anyone else wants to add? No? Okay. Right, so we now have what we call the open session for electors. So that's where all those people that have come to join our brilliant and interesting committee get to ask any questions. Unfortunately, we don't actually have any members of the public here today. So we can maybe work collectively to try and encourage members of the public to come along to future committees, because I do think it is important, and again, I'm not sure if anyone is watching this at home. I think we maybe get a couple of views a month. But it is something that I think is important about how do we engage the public and have a conversation. So I guess I just wanted to note on that we don't have any questions. We didn't get any written questions, and we don't have any. We've just got a. Are there? So what I would suggest, and I guess, and I think it maybe covers there's a further item in the agenda about I think it's cuppa with the councillor. So maybe under that discussion we can kind of come back to how we do engage the public better and try and get them to be more involved in these meetings, or at least in our decision making, the work that we're doing as a council. Yeah. Okay, so we are now going to go straight into events, and just to introduce Amy, and maybe Joe, I don't know if you want to sort of share a few words from the council about Amy, because she's very new in post. You will have seen her around, but she's very new to this post. So Joe, do you want to give her a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure Amy can her own intro, but yeah, I mean, Amy's been with the council longer than I have, so I've been here for 13 years. So Amy's got a wealth of experience. She's got a wealth of knowledge of events. She's helped out with events for previous people in that post. So I think personally, I think it's a good fit. So Amy's starting to work on her first event really, which is Christmas. Bearing in mind the previous post holder didn't make any arrangements for Christmas because we were in a state of flux, and that person has now left the organisation. So quite an uphill battle, but I think she's taken up the challenge. And yeah, I'll let Amy kind of elaborate on what she's got planned. But yeah, that's kind of general introduction. Yeah.
Great. Well, welcome, Amy, in your new role. Delighted. Yeah.
So for Christmas we're going to do a 3-day event. Friday night will be the main light switch on, which will be the busiest of the 3 days. This will have the fireworks, the entertainment, and then on the Saturday we're just going to have live music, and then Sunday will be more of a family fun day.
So within the Christmas discussion, there is also a discussion about a Christmas tree, I believe. And we've had a request from another member of the council to basically guide us in a little bit of a discussion about whether, just for those who weren't at the last meeting, and if you saw the minutes, it was in the informal meeting that happened last time we met, that there was a decision made that the Christmas tree was no longer going to be outside of the council building. That's where it had been historically. And the suggestion was that there would be one tree, and it would be a partnership, and some of the money that was being used was going to go to the Rotary to basically enable their tree to be bigger. I'd say that was was that a summary of that?
Yeah, pretty much, Chair. So just for a bit of context for some of the newer members, we've always historically had the Christmas tree outside the Marcus Hill here. That then became too challenging to continue because the Environment and Facilities Committee essentially re-landscaped the lawn, which meant that where the tree will normally be can't happen anymore without ripping up all the plants that are there. So, you know, that was the other committee's decision. That's the kind of route they chose, but ultimately that then left us in a predicament where we didn't have anywhere to put a tree. So we looked at two options for the previous meeting. One, which is still trying to put the tree there, but you're looking at then re-landscaping it again and damaging the plant in there, which we didn't advise. The second option was to give a donation of £500 towards the tree that sits outside Poundland, which is done by the Rotary Club. And at no additional cost to us, we would give them the use of our Christmas tree lights because they're under hire contract. So regardless, we're paying it. They've got to go somewhere, so they might as well go on a tree, and it might as well be that one. So that was the options that were presented to the committee back in July. We didn't have a meeting, but the informal steer that I got back from the members that did attend and subsequently by email was to progress with the latter option, which is to partnership with the Rotary, and that would be the kind of town tree, if you will. Following that, I'm conscious I've got Councillor Slade and other members who want to still have a town council funded or town council tree, essentially, and specifically on the Killicourt. So I've done a report on options for the Killicourt, which is in your packs. So the options that we see if it's going to work down there are either in a container at the top of the Killicourt on the hard standing, so the kind of circular area at the entrance, or in the ground in the Killicourt itself. I've kind of given my 2 pence in the report. It is an exposed location. I don't think we can really get away from that. It's exposed to the north wind. The tree outside of the offices here, even though it was more sheltered, still also fell down a couple of times. So having something in a more exposed location is ultimately only going to be higher risk. It's not going to be lower risk. Having said that, the contractor that we've working with who would potentially do the install has given their best assurances that if we weigh it down with 4 1-ton concrete stays around it, that will mitigate the risk, but obviously won't eliminate the risk because you can't eliminate the risk. So I haven't really got any options that I would recommend in this instance. I can only say what options you have available. So if I had a preference, it would be in the ground, because I don't think realistically you would have the space at the top on that hard standing area. One of the common issues, well, not the common issues, but one of the areas of feedback we had from last year's Christmas event was because we had food vendors at the entrance, it bottlenecked the entrance access and egress onto site. That's something that we wanted to try and work to avoid this year. And I think if we're having a Christmas tree in that hard standing area, we're just repeating the same mistakes as last year. So if we were going to do it, we would probably recommend on actual Killicourt itself. It's less intrusive. You can dig a hole and then you can fill a hole back in. It reduces the available event space, so that's something that myself and Amy would have to work around. So there's also the question mark about how we light it up, because we have a lighting hire contract, got lighting enough for 1 tree, not 2. So that kind of raises the question of how you light it. We have existing lighting in the basement, but whether that would be enough for the tree and the entire Killicourt I'm not sure. So you might have to sacrifice some lighting on the Killicourt if you're going to light a tree with the existing lighting in the basement. If you did that, you would reduce your cost. So waffled enough. There's a lot of options in that report, and it's really for yourselves to kind of discuss the merits and demerits of it all.
So in the report, there is some mention of the costs and the associated costs, and then Councillor Slade would also like to share a few words about it as well. Has everyone got that report in front of them so they can see the figures? And I'm sure we might want to refer to finance around those costs as well. And Steve, do you want to come in at this point just to kind of give your overview and thoughts?
Yeah, hi. So obviously if you don't know, I'm Vice Chair of the said Environment and Facilities Committee that planted the front of that put the excellent planting at the front of the building here that now means that we can't put the Christmas tree there anymore. We're strong, really, I think it's so important for the town council to put on like a really impressive Christmas, especially like because of Newquay and so many people come here, it attracts so much business. There was a discussion at full council about how important it is to the businesses and the whole feeling Christmas. And we've got a big light turn on event at the Killicourt, which is our venue. And to have that without a Christmas tree would just be terrible. The idea of sharing it with the Rotary Club, I mean, there's always been the town's tree, the big tree here, and then there's been the Rotary Club's one outside Poundland. I would see it as a thing, like, that's their thing. So they've got their tree, they use that to raise money for their charities, that's fine. And then we have our tree, which is the town's tree, for the big turn on and the whole Christmas build up. I think myself and a lot of ENF would, I mean, we used to kind of do the tree stuff, so it's kind of, we passed it on. But I think the Killicourt, especially now we've got ownership of it and it's our event venue, I think it'd definitely have it in the Killicourt. I would agree with, I think I'm agreeing with Joe, which is to actually put it in the ground. What would be really good is, rather than in a container, and then it's out, like you say, it's got more access and the rest of it. But also if you could try and work out a way to put it in the ground that is kind of reusable. I've just got my head around the kind of Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square thing. But if you've got like a big round steel hole that's capped, and each year you just take the cap off, and that's for the contractors to work out. I appreciate it's expensive, but there is, I've been told there's some money left over in the mayor's fund that he's more prepared to put to this. So there's, is there? No, apparently. Okay, all right, okay, but you can. Think so. I think he's got 5,000. Yes. So I'm not saying the money's, doesn't matter, but there's additional funds available from whatever budget you take this out of. But yeah, we just don't want to be the council that messes up Christmas. It's so important. We can't do that. Please don't be Grinches. So I don't know how you make your decisions, but that's my little plea to you all. So I think it's really important that we have it at the Killicourt. Thank you.
Got a question from...
I like the idea of having one on the Killicourt. And I'm wondering if there's any way that there could be a permanent tree there, and that we decorate it with Christmas things at Christmas, and on other occasions maybe gets decorated with other things. Can't think what right now, but whether that's a possibility, so that actually it's a permanent tree that we are planting that isn't seasonal. And whether that's just totally impossible, bearing in mind all the things that you said, Joe, in terms of winds and everything else. And I wish Sarah was here actually to advise us on what sort of tree might be possible, and whether that's been looked at year after year. And being a newbie, I haven't been part of that, I don't know. But that would be one thing that I would be interested in trying to promote, that it's a tree for life on the Killicourt that we use as a Christmas tree.
Councillor Slade, your hand was up first and then Joe.
Yeah, as far as trees on the Killicourt, we've been looking at that. And yes, Councillor Thompson is looking at that. What we want to try and do is use native species so that we can enhance the Killicourt, but obviously we've got to look at coastally tolerant species. With the tree, you know, a Christmas tree, whether like a spruce, is really something that we want on the Killicourt, a permanent thing when we're planting natives. But the argument with the environmental impact of the tree is that where we get it from, that Joe remembers and I can't, but they do a thing where we went for it at the last couple of years because they plant 5 for every one they cut down. So we felt on an environmental level we were comfortable with a one-off Christmas tree. But we are looking to plant the Killicourt with trees, natives, not spruce.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of also defer that kind of query to our deputy environment manager, and probably the likes of Councillor Thompson, who might be able to advise better. I know they have looked at it in the past. My only concern for this year's timescales, I don't think we would achieve that for this year. I think if you were going to look at that, that would have to be kind of 2026 onwards. And the location that we're looking temporarily, I'm not sure would be suitable for something permanent. Not only just because of how it's exposed, but from the visual impact as well. I know that no one's entitled to a view in planning, but it would be quite visual, I think. At the moment, it's temporary, and I think we can get away with that. But anything more permanent will probably have to be more sympathetic to the site.
I just had a question on finances. How does the costs of this one compare to previous years' Christmas tree costs?
It is a lot more, yeah. I have in my head around about £4,000, I think. I'm not sure. I'm just plucking figures, but it is a lot more, yeah, to do what we're looking to do. Yeah.
What's the reason for that?
The reason being, you've got the additional excavation groundworks which would need to be done. That doesn't need to be done here because there was always a hole there. So that's new work that you'd need to do. And also, depending on what you opted to do in terms of the Christmas tree lights and the partnership with the Rotary, you would then need to look at purchasing additional Christmas lights. So that's why it's more.
I was, after the last meeting about giving money to the Rotary Club, I was under the impression that we had chosen that because it was really expensive this year in comparison to get a tree for in front of the council. But I didn't realise that we were giving our lights to them. I thought we were donating money towards them doing the tree. Like, could we keep our lights and then keep that for the Killicourt?
You can do, but yeah, I mean, just going back to the original recommendation, it was because we wouldn't have a tree, so we're contracted to put, our contractors are contracted to put lights on a tree, so we wouldn't save any money by not putting lights on a tree. So that's kind of why it was part of that recommendation, in addition to the £500 towards a tree. If we're going to put lights somewhere, we might as well put them on a tree.
On a tree.
So yeah, it was part of the original recommendation. But you, as a committee, are completely within your rights to say that you want to keep your contracted lights for the tree on the Killicourt. I just, from an officer perspective, I ideally need to know sooner rather than later, because I need to task the contractors to tell them which one they're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Yep.
Have you reached an agreement with Rotary? Are they expecting the lights?
No. So I've heavily caveated it with the entire time that it's not a done deal, and I even reiterated that when I met them a couple of weeks ago, that it's still not a done deal.
There is, on the next part of the events report, there is also something about corporate sponsorship of the Christmas event. KPAX, was that on your report? That's a separate
item, Chair. So,
Is it a separate
yeah.
item? Okay. So there, I can't remember what agenda item it is, but I know that coming up in today's discussion is going to be about sponsorship by companies of events that the council does. It would seem to me that Christmas is a good opportunity that people would want their names associated with. This does seem quite expensive, and I know it does mention here that there's this Jubilee Fund. I don't know anything about the Jubilee Fund, I'm afraid, so I'll have to again look to finance about what that is, and if the mayor said you can have it, does the mayor have authority to say you can have his Jubilee Fund?
No, the mayor is no different than any of the members in this room. He doesn't have any executive powers, so he doesn't have any budgets assigned to himself or themselves. Essentially what we're referring to two different things. So just to clarify, in my report, I highlighted a Jubilee Fund earmark reserve of £34,614, and might be able to correct me whether that's still the right balance or not, or what it was previously earmarked for. I'm not aware that it's earmarked for anything specific, so it's why I highlighted it. What the mayor is referring to is a separate budget line, which is for civic event ceremonies, which I don't think would cover the entirety of what is being asked for this evening anyway. I think you'd still need to use some of that budget and some of another budget. So the difference between the two is, for an earmark reserve, you wouldn't make the decision here this evening. You would recommend a release from that earmark reserve to full council. Is it in CMT? Where that one is.
One is that the environment for the mayor is in GNR.
Yeah. So.
Jubilee funds.
Yeah. So it would just go straight to full council for final approval to release those funds from an EMR. If you use one of your budget lines, then you just agree it this evening.
Is that hand?
Just to clarify, because obviously the mayor can't be here tonight because he will be accepting all the numerous prizes we're going to win for South West in Bloom. But he did sort of strongly say that whatever charity money or whatever he's got left, he was more than happy to put it towards this, because he's aware that there's going to be an impact on your budgets. But it's such a big deal that, you know, he's prepared to sort of, the money could be found, was the phrase I heard.
So I think what I'm saying, and I think what we're probably all agreed with, but do correct me if I'm wrong, is that because we didn't have enough money last time to commit towards the Christmas tree, we can't now find the money, which is looking like 4,400. But it does sound like we like the idea of the Christmas tree in principle. So could I suggest that as a committee we say we want to see a Christmas tree, we can't allocate a C&T budget towards that? Is that what I'm because it sounds like the funds that are available aren't our funds to give towards this. Is that right, Anne? Yeah.
I might be able to help you. So I think given the time periods involved, if you want a tree, you need to agree it tonight, and you need to agree to take it out of a C&T events Jubilee earmarked reserve. If you're going to wait to go to GNR for their budget, which is at the end of October, which then may or may not get agreed depending on how that meeting went, I think it's getting too late. I think if you want the Christmas tree and you want to spend the money, you need to agree to take it out of the events earmark.
And so is that our events budget for the year?
Can I just clarify what an EMR is? Because I think you're all looking really scared, okay? So when you have a budget, when you say it like that, your events budget is what you've planned for your events that you're running along this year. We have something called an EMR, which is in the earmarked reserve. It's money that we've put back, which is underspends from previous years for things. So it's like a little pot of money that you're able to allocate on certain things. So it's not within your annual budget this year. It won't affect your future events that you've already planned for this year. It is out of that EMR. You might plan to want to top it up again going forward when you do your budget setting later, so that you top it up again so it's there for in the future. But it's not, you're not like cutting £6,000 out of your budget, your events budget for this year that you're in.
Okay.
That's really helpful. I'm just thinking that Amy might be sitting there thinking, budget, that's gone, boom, on a Christmas tree. What can I do? But if that's not the case, then that gives us a bit more liberty to be able to suggest or pass on or recommend that, yes, in principle, we want a tree on the Killacourt. We want it lit. We want it to be known as the town Christmas tree. It's part of what we're about for Christmas. It's going to cost, but balancing that with not having one seems a bit, again, it sort of limits us. I have to say I am an avid fan of Christmas trees. And can I ask as well, when is the light? What's the date?
It is Friday the 28th of November.
Right, thank you.
Okay, right. So I think we'll have to go to a vote then. Sounds like, so we would need a proposer and we would need a seconder if we want to agree that the full, and that's for the full 4,000. My caveat would be that we do look for some kind of corporate sponsorship, because we have already had an approach of someone who wants to sponsor something we're doing at Christmas. They may or may not be the type of sponsor that we want, but knowing the businesses around in the town, it may be something that they would want to sponsor. So even if we commit today that we would use all of our funds from the earmarked reserves, Jubilee Fund, that we can also see if we can claw back some of that money either through corporate sponsorship and or through the Mayor's Fund. So we're using it as a stopgap as opposed to being able to progress with the conversation about it, but we would still want it, we would still want the request to go to GNR for this money. So even though we can't have it in time to start the process, we could be able to claw some of that back, and we could claw some of that back through potential corporate sponsorships. How would members feel about that? Yeah. Does that sound like a sort of, and from a finance perspective, yeah? Okay, then I will need who wants to? So the proposal is, it's £4,500, I believe, 4,400.
Sorry, Chair. So
Yeah.
If we're looking at option C, which is having it based in the ground, I kind of need to know really whether you want to use the existing lighting, either our hired lighting or the lighting in the basement. The lighting in the basement would be free, our hired lighting would be free. Hired lighting, it means you're taking it away from the rotary. So if we go for option C and we're still buying more lighting, that's £7,708. If we go for option C in the ground and we use our existing lighting, whether it's hired or in the basement, that's £5,856.
Oh, right. Well, that's...
But just to reiterate, you do have your EMR has 34,614. And if you're going down, looking at the corporate sponsorship route as well.
Sorry, that's my mistake. So the cheapest one on that option is the 5,100. Is that right? Using the existing lighting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means putting it in a wooden container. And if I was going to recommend any of the options, I'm not sure it'd be a wooden container, just due to whether it be robust enough.
Shall I just come in on Joe's report? I think there's only the two options that you're discussing are a total of just £7,700 just over, which is with new lights, so that the Rotary can use some of our existing lights that we potentially already offered, or it's nearly 6,000, 5,800, in which case we use our own lights and then the Rotary don't get lights. So it's sort of, that's your balance.
Can I suggest that we go for option 3? That's what I'm hearing is the most appropriate one. And if there's a way of using the existing lighting, let's explore that. If there's not an opportunity to do that, then we spend the 7,500, a little more, with the caveat that we look at any and every other option, if not immediately for this year, but the topping up of any funds that we have. And I feel that I need to take advice and support from the officers, really, in terms of, is this workable? Is it practical? Can we actually do this? Are we putting ourselves in a very vulnerable position in terms of finances, or is actually this okay and that we go ahead with that?
I'll let Anne kind of come in on the how it will impact your Yes, I do. So in terms of logistics, speaking to the contractor who've got quotes from, they can achieve it in timescales before our event. The tree itself has already been provisionally booked, so it's just a case of giving them the go-ahead and booking that work in and getting it installed. In terms of the hit on your EMRs, it depends. I mean, I'm not aware that this committee has earmarked anything specifically for that fund, but I'll defer to Anne on that one.
I suppose as a finance person, I would always say you need to keep your EMRs as high as they are. You have got 34,000. I put in just under £14,000 last year from the budget underspend of events. So there's enough money there to do the Christmas tree. But I think the real question is, we know you want to do the Christmas tree. It's most sensible to go in the ground. The real question is, do you want to support the Rotary Club at a cost of nearly £2,000 by letting them use our lights, or do you want to use our own lights on our own tree and say, I'm really sorry to them, but we agreed to focus on our own tree and we can't give you that support that we might have offered? That's the key question, I think.
The only thing that came to my mind is whether an option would be, if we're not convinced, because I haven't actually assessed how much lighting we have available in the basement, if it's enough, but there might be enough for their tree. So it's whether our contracted high lighting still goes on the tree on the Killicourt, and whatever we have spare in the basement, you could still offer to them. Because at the moment, they have no lighting for their tree whatsoever. It failed last year.
I feel like if we haven't agreed, which it sounds like we haven't told them, yes, you can have our lights, that's £2,000 we can save, £1,800 we can save. That seems like the most sensible thing to do. And yeah, totally in agreement. There seems to be a lot of lights down there. If we can do a little check and see which ones need new bulbs and loan them that once we've sorted out the Killicourt, that seems absolutely fair. May I ask, are we still giving them the £500?
Complete up to yourselves.
That feels like quite a reasonable, I don't know, this is my first time in this meeting, but that feels like a reasonable thing to say, no, actually we need to keep our lights for the town tree, for the town council tree, but here's still our £500 contribution. We love that you put your tree outside Poundland. That seems fair to me.
Yep. Anne?
The only thing I would say with that, and I always come with my, I like to be fair to everybody, is you're just giving £500 to the Rotary Club for a Christmas tree, and there are a lot of people that go through the grants process through this committee to get money, and it, you know, in terms of transparency and fairness, I have to raise that, not because I don't want you to give it to them, but I like to make sure that everybody is treated fairly.
Oh, I think it's really fair that Anne said that, and I agree. I think that the 500 that we were going to give them was only because we weren't going to have a tree in front of the council. So now that we are going to have a tree, I don't think it's necessary to give them any money, to be honest. Thank you.
And then just so I can clarify, there's lights that we would be hiring anyway. In all of these options, we would still need to hire extra lights in. It's just whether we use the lights from in the basement as well.
Yeah, so just, sorry, I know it's really difficult. So we have contracted hire lighting, which we already pay under contract. So it's not free, but it's not an additional cost. So that's contracted costs. We're not looking to change there. We have lights for a tree under that contract. So the additional lighting in those costs is essentially where you've got Christmas tree lights, £2,552. That's if you were going to go under the same arrangement, you're giving the Rotary our hired lighting, not using the stuff in the basement.
Right, okay.
So you can basically ignore that cost, essentially. Right. If we're looking to do the arrangement where we would donate some of our existing lights in the basement, which we don't have any use of anyway.
Right.
And the lighting we have under contract will go on the tree on the Killarcourt.
Right, okay. I think I'm fully understanding now. So we have some lights that we can give to the Rotary. They won't get the full package that is within here. We would get those for the tree at the Killarcourt. So we're not completely letting the Rotary down. We can also suggest, I'm guessing, to the Rotary that they can apply to our grants funding if they want funding for anything that they're doing throughout the year. So if they've got a request, we will have one last C&T meeting before Christmas anyway, so we could recommend that they go through our usual channels for grant funding if they want to. And so that feels like we've got a solution, a compromise for the Rotary, and then we've also ensured that we have a great tree at the Killarcourt for Christmas, and we also use it as an opportunity to explore potential sponsorship and trying to get the businesses and the community more involved. And it's maybe something that we could also bring up at the bid meeting, which we have a seat on, and that's where the businesses kind of contribute towards their own Christmas events as well. So I think I'm hearing a proposal.
I don't think we definitely have lights. I think it's we might have lights. Is that correct? It's more like a maybe potentially if we use all our stuff and we have some.
Yeah, so the lighting we've got in the basement, there's another recommendation later on, which is essentially around replicating what we did last year. So last year we hired a contractor to take our lighting that we've got in storage and basically decorate the entire of the Killarcourt, put it along all the retail units, along the bandstand, along the cafe. It looked really good. That is another recommendation that I'll be making later on this evening. That's separate to this. So there's that lighting which we used last year. We didn't use it all. I don't know because I haven't actually checked how much meterage is left, but we've got a fair chunk still left over. I just couldn't commit here and now how much that would be and if it would be enough. But speaking to the Rotary, I think they would appreciate whatever really that we could offer them.
Okay. So, are we proposing that it's option C, that it's the in the ground on open space, that we have the lighting, that we use a contractor, so it's the £5,856 option basically, with the caveat that we would like to look for corporate sponsorship and that we go to the GNR to retrospectively claim back some of that funding that we've committed from this committee. Yeah, okay. Do we have a proposer for that Yes, Justine. And do we have a seconder? Well, yeah. And all in favour? Unanimously decided. We will have a tree.
Could I have a thought for next?
Right, Councillor Slade, would you like to?
Yes, thank you. All right, that's great. Right, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. See you all soon.
Right, Amy, was there any other part of your report in terms of events that you wanted to go through? It was about Christmas, yeah. Great. Yeah, Justine.
I really liked I preferred the idea of planting a tree, and the reason we couldn't think about that was timescales. Is there a way that we could say now that when we're talking about trees next July, or whenever we actually start the tree conversation, we have a solid costing or proposal for a tree in the ground? And I hear you on, we don't want to have like a redwood there. Maybe we want like a medlar or a mulberry or something that's like local and little. Mulberries are quite big, maybe a medlar.
Absolutely, there's no reason why you can't start that process now that that's the kind of direction you want to go. Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on, Chair, there is the item in that report further down, which is the lighting for the Kilcourt retail units and the bandstand. So I've only managed to secure one quote. I approached 2 other companies. One didn't get back to me, one declined to quote. So it's a company called APS. They are the ones that have also quoted for the other elements of this project, which is the Christmas tree. So they have quoted 3,900 to do the same installation as the last year, which is basically to put our lighting down on the Kilcourt. Cat might be, sorry, Councillor Norman might be more, might be able to kind of explain a little bit more about how that looks, but I personally think it looks really good. The retail units loved it, they wanted it up longer, but unfortunately we couldn't do that. So I've identified a budget which you could essentially fund it from. It's your miscellaneous expenses budget in the Christmas lighting, which has £4,399 in, and might correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it was when I last looked. So whether you would approve going ahead with that again this year or not, and if you do, we would need to suspend financial regulations to approve just the one quote, because unfortunately I was unsuccessful getting another 2. It is the right at the bottom, just underneath the recommendation on the Christmas tree. Yes, sorry, yes it is. It's under Christmas lighting, Kilcourt units and bandstand. I can read it if...
So we did it last year. It was a success. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, it from our perspective, it was fantastic because it lit up the whole area. Now the nights are coming in sooner. It was a really good thing to have in that area, not just for making it look pretty, but making it feel like you can still go in that area, it not being too dark. And yeah, from what I heard, all of the other the kiosk tenants, they absolutely loved it, and all the clients that I spoke to, yeah, they really liked it. They thought it made it very festive in the area. Yeah, it was very successful.
I think the one thing that I would say is that it would be great to see the businesses. I don't know if there's any. I'm bringing it up at the bid, but a late night shopping, because it sometimes feels like the lights come on and then the shops close, and I don't know if there's any kind of who's coordinating businesses on the Kilcourt, and then obviously with the bid with the wider, just to mention it really, that is there any plans to stay open later for some of those businesses? Are they able to? I guess they are within their licences to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know our bid manager has approached him in the past. Whether he has this year, I don't know how much he gets involved with them. They do sometimes feel like they're their own kind of entity, and yeah, I mean, we can reach out to them ourselves as the landlord and just kind of get a feel of if they're going to be doing anything and taking advantage of the events that we've got down there, taking advantage of the investment that we're putting in down in terms of lights and trees and whatnot. So we can work with bid on that to see if we can kind of generate a bit more interest down there. But I take your point, Councillor Jacobs. Yeah.
In the last full council meeting, there was a complaint from someone who had been encouraged to do late night shopping and then been disappointed that actually customers didn't come for the late night shopping. So I feel like it could be an inquiry rather than like a push, and then people who were available to or wanted to could just do it rather than, yeah, she seemed, the person, I don't know her, but she seemed really disappointed about it. So yeah, and I fully support the lights being put up. So I think we could just propose that.
Just to note, Anne's kindly pointed out that the budget I've identified is already earmarked for something else. So if you do want to proceed, it will be the same earmark that we use for the Christmas tree.
May I ask if there was a request last year for them to be up for a longer window of time, could we investigate that this year, and then it feels like we get a little bit more value for our money too?
I mean, feasibly, you could have them up as long as you want.
Oh. How Christmassy are they? Could they stay up for quite a long time into the new year, or is it Santa's and...
It depends how superstitious you are, really. Because I know some people want Christmas lights down at a certain time. I'm not that inclined. So they are relatively festive looking. They're like braided with like kind of a reef style effect. So they are quite festive. I'm not sure you could necessarily get away with pushing that into like Easter or spring or anything like that, but it's entirely up to yourselves when they come down. You don't have to come down in January.
Great suggestion, yeah.
Can I be the Grinch? And I'm really sorry. And I love Christmas. It's my favourite time of year. We have a set period in terms of electricity budgets and everything else. You've already really massively overspent in terms of using an EMR, probably nearly 10 grand by doing these two things on their own, extending them more and putting your electricity bills up. If you want to do this, can I suggest you're going to talk about budgets, you increase your budget so that you can really push the boat out next year. You can look at what you want to do, but I think, you know, that you can't do this for every single thing that you want to do. There has to be limits in place. So I would just stick to the rest of the lighting scheme around the town and the times, because I think it's from like November into January anyway. So it's quite, you know.
Great. Can I have a proposer for that then, please? The lights budget. Yep. And a seconder. And a vote in favour. Is that a unanimous, or is that are you yeah, you're proposing and you're voting, yeah. So a unanimous decision on the Christmas lights at the Killer Court as well. Right.
Can we do a proposal around the tree for next year as well? Because do we have to make a proposal if we want that to happen, or is that just minuted and it'll magically happen? What's the procedure?
I think that'll be minuted, and there is, because these are like decisions that we're sort of taking today, so I'm guessing we don't have to propose that it comes to an agenda in next year, do we?
Not necessarily, no. We can just, yeah, you don't have to make a decision, a formal decision. We can just have that as something that was on the radar and something we make sure we discuss at the next relevant meeting.
Yeah, and maybe we start discussing Christmas earlier.
Yeah, and when you have firm costs, and then we can make a decision.
Great. Okay, right, so now we'll go back to where we were in the minutes, in the agenda. And the next item was grant applications. So we have two funding bids for grants. One is from the Skate Expo and the second is from Alma Arts Space. So has everyone had a chance to look at those 2 funding bids yet? And if not, do you want to just pull them up and have a scan of them? The Surf and Skate Expo was for £987 and 75 pence. I'm going to bring glasses to my next meeting. I've realised I now need them. And £178 was for Alma Art Space. So if we take the Surf and Skate Expo first, and just to say that we have a 4,000, where's my numbers? Maybe Joe, you can remind me. We've got about 4,000 that we still need to spend by April in terms of our grants budget. So just to sort of set that in context, but I'll let you have a little scan through the proposals for that.
Sorry, I missed the last bit. It's just over £4,000, and is there a timescale?
Till the end of March.
Till the end of March.
So we've probably got about 3 more committee meetings between now and then.
And how much was there originally at the beginning of the year? Like, how quickly have we been spending it?
We haven't been spending it too quickly. So did we start with 5 and now we're at 4? Is that
Chair, I was just...
Oh yeah, the question was, what did we start the year with?
For the grants budget?
Yeah.
5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was broken up into 2 tranches, 2 gateways essentially. So 2,500 initially, which came to, I think, June's committee. You didn't allocate your whole first grant phase, so that bumps your kind of remaining balance into your kind of next grant gateway. So you've got £4,090 of grant funding still available to award in this financial year.
Councillor Martin. Sorry. Do I formally have to say people by their surnames?
I apologise for my voice. I don't think I'm infectious anymore. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But I'm well over 2 weeks of feeling rough, so I'm feeling great compared to what I was. Anyway, the Surf and Skate Expo. I didn't attend, which I'm ashamed of because I should have done. But I understand this year it obviously the first of its kind, and from the people I've been hearing from, they have said what an amazing event it was, and something that again put Newquay on a different kind of map. And that I was talking to my grandson, for example, who's 16, and he was just saying, it was fantastic. The whole thing was fun. He had never been to anything like it before, and he was absolutely buzzed up about it. And other people, I get the impression, felt very much the same. So if there's any way we can support 2026 for a variation on a theme, I think we ought to, and that it could be bigger and better. And I think from what I understand from the Expo people themselves, that they actually felt that they could do more and perhaps different, and you know, all those opportunities. Amy, you're nodding, but what a fabulous thing. I don't think it's been done anywhere in the country before. Maybe, I don't think so. And so, heavens above, we need to be in on this, it seems to me.
Can I just say as well, he has reached out and he would really like to work with Town Council, the organiser, so I think it would be a good collaboration.
Yeah, I agree. I went down, and as someone who, I don't really skate, but I do know who Tony Alba is, and getting to see both a skating legend and probably one of the best skaters in Europe at our local Concrete Waves was just phenomenal. And again, just set Concrete Waves apart as a national centre for skating. And I think the fact that it brought the 2 things together, often people think of Newquay as surfing, but actually because of concrete waves, and actually I'd love to sort of see the numbers in terms of skate parks per square metre in terms of the whole of Cornwall. We're probably the skate centre of the UK as well, and I think the more that that's promoted, the better. So I would agree with Val. I think there's some tweaks, and it would be great to see maybe more of it happening over at Concrete Waves as well. So yeah, I agree. It was a really, really good event and massively well promoted. I've never seen posters for an event like it, really. Anyone else want to say anything on that?
Just that I agree.
So they've asked for 900 and yeah. Are we happy to give them the full amount? I think they wanted to put that towards temporary toilets. Is that because they can't? Are ours going to be still out of order by then, or what's the?
Yeah, that's right. But it's also we can only fund certain criteria. So Kathy went back to them because I think originally they wanted to cover the cost of salaries or some administration costs which we can't fund. So they've highlighted that as purely just an area which we can fund. So that's one of the rationale for it.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose that we say yes to this.
Great. And a seconder? Yep. Yeah, Justine. All in favour? Unanimously decided. Great. And the next one is Alma Arts. So they've asked for a relatively small amount considering the budget that we've still got. So do you want to have a quick scan through their application as well? And that's for a Christmas activity. Valerie?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Valerie's proposing,
I don't think we even need to discuss it, frankly. I think we just, yes, we've got to, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Seconded by? Yep. All in favour? Great. Agreed.
How much do we have left in the grants right now, please? Just over, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4,090 you had.
Thank you.
Can I just add something else to this that you may want to consider is just something else that you may want to consider, because I know the Expo people have reached out to Amy and working in partnership. One of the costs that they didn't have to pay this year because it didn't come in time was all the music costs, and we committees have agreed that that will be paid going forward. So you might want to just notify them of that for next year, because that will be a cost that they don't know about, and it's quite a large one.
That's for
the event, the music license costs. And for the surf skate event?
That's Concrete Waves.
Yeah. So, and I think it can be in the region of £400, so it's quite a lot of money when you think that's what they paid for the whole event. So it may be that you revisit your grant application on a revised cost.
Can we cover that cost?
Could agree to cover that cost with your grant funding if you wanted to.
Right, so we'll move on to external grant process, and I'm going to bring you in, Kieran, for this. You've got a little presentation for us, I believe.
Well, just happy to just quickly go over what's in the report. So obviously external grants is looking for money outside of the council. What we've been looking at over the last 8 or 9 months is kind of defining a process which will maximise funding streams coming in. So whether that's us as an accountable body applying for funding for ourselves, us working in partnership with other organisations, either as a lead provider or as a partner, or also supporting organisations that are based in Newquay or work in Newquay, such as charities or CICs. So they're basically the three strands that we've kind of, and we have, I think, done all three now. So yeah, so we're just kind of smoothing that process through. I think what's also in the pack is a list of projects. So obviously we have projects from working with officers and various members. There are projects that are suggested, and we try to then put together a project proposal or a plan that we can then use to apply for funding. You'll see that there is a kind of traffic light system. The traffic light system just relates to how far we are along with the plan. Okay, so the green ones are ones, and there is a percentage in there that will kind of tell us kind of how close we are to it, what we would call being shovel ready for application. We've got costs and things like that, so that would be a plan that's 100%. If we've got to the point where we have the outputs, the outcomes, the beneficiaries, objectives, things like that, then it could be anything up to about 75% done, and we might be looking at what costs. We may have looked at some partners that we would be delivering alongside, or different ways that we could do it. So what we had quite recently was with the Trip Fund. We ended up being the lead partner, and we ended up being a delivery partner. And obviously we were successful with that application. So that's basically what that spreadsheet is for. It also links everything back to the corporate plan, so that we know that we're kind of staying on track. We're not doing anything that's not within the strategy already. So whenever any of the plans are proposed, then we go through a process of looking at the corporate plan and making sure that we're on course with that. Obviously bringing them to C&T, all they're split off into actually mainly environment and services, environment and facilities, and community. So that's obviously why we'll be doing a separate report to community and tourism, because a lot of the funding that could be available is there. And also to provide you as a committee the opportunity to discuss any priorities that you might want to. And then obviously there's some recommendations in the report, but if I'm happy to take any questions now and then move on to those. Yes.
Are the green ones finished? Because in the bit that you said there'd be a percentage, it says things like no.
So no, so so that was the one that was put in the minutes. That's the one that we have now. So this is a working document that literally gets looked at every week. The green ones are the ones that we have a project plan either ready, or we've done everything that we can in terms of putting together an application. So as you say, the one that says no, the two that say no there, we didn't have time to actually do a plan, to do a project plan, because the application came along the same time as the proposal. So sometimes some funding will become available and we have nothing sitting on the shelf, and we're looking for something that we can apply for. So you can see the youth centre one, and I think Councillor Martin was involved in that meeting, where we actually ended up the Community Capacity Fund gave us £3,500 towards that. It wasn't actually 5,000. And then the Killer Court lighting one was part of the Trip Fund. So that was put together with a number of other projects, put in with bid for murals that they wanted to do, and we applied to Trip for that. And then the Simon Armitage, so the Simon Armitage Tours 2026, so Simon Armitage does tours, and they're based on the letter in the alphabet. So we started obviously with ABC, E, E, F, and so on, and this next year ends in there. So we've applied to Simon Armitage to come and do an event here, which would be part of St. Piran's Day celebrations. So we should hear about that sometime in the next couple of weeks, whether that one's been successful.
Do we have a date for Simon Armitage, or not yet?
I believe that it's actually St. Piran's week. It would be.
Right.
Which I'm going to say is sometime in March.
5th, isn't it?
Yes.
St David's is the 1st March. St Piran's is the 5th March.
So he does that. Right. He does a tour on that particular that happens to be the same week. Right. So obviously, I think this year the letters are NOP. So he'll be going to a library somewhere that starts with O and a library starting with P. So he'll choose. So I think 1 year he'll do 5, something like that. He'll choose. Normally it looks like between 3 and 5, where he'll do a tour of the libraries, and he'll do one a day, or one every other day for that week.
So, Kieran, just so I've got this right, there's a proposal about a slightly different way of working around grant proposals, in that we've had to sign off grant applications at the C&T if they're connected to C&T. That's in your report here as well, isn't it?
So
I'm just in your attached documents, there's C&T project list identifies a point in time of relevant projects, and this is that piece of document, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be that.
Yeah.
As I say, that's a working document that we use to kind of
Yeah.
to get to a point where we're shovel ready with projects.
Right.
But there may be, as I say, there are opportunities. You may want to set other priorities in relation to C&T or in relation to the corporate plan that links to this committee, that we can then would almost be added to the list, or again look at the list and say, right, okay, we think that this is really important. Maybe we want specific focus on this as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, so we would have an opportunity to potentially look at future projects that we might want to see happen within C&T that we haven't got any funding for at the moment. We would work with you to get that as a potential, to work it up as a potential project that then you would go out and look for external funding for. Is that right?
Yes, ideally what we would do is we would start to design a project plan. So the project plan would include obviously an overview of what the funding would be used for, who the beneficiaries would be, what outcomes, objectives that we would like to see come from it. Then that would form part of the research for funding to see. Again, I think it's really important that we have as much notice, especially as a town council, of what things we would like to see happen, because as funding emerges, a lot of them will have really tight deadlines. I think normally you're talking 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes they can go on for years, but it can be 4 to 6 weeks. So we don't have time to come back to committee quite often, and also the criteria is never going to fit exactly what we discuss in a room. So it may be that it's about getting the outline of a plan that we can say, this is this is something we'd like to have. And then also, like we did with the trip one, it might be 3 or 4 plans that we have that we say, okay, by putting these together, it strengthens a particular application.
One of the bees in my bonnet is International Women's Day, which is the 8th of March, or thereabouts. And a few of us have spoken over the last few weeks, months. Is there something we could do? Can we do something small? How inclusive could we be? What would we like it to look like? This, hesitate to call it an event, but in some ways, whether it's breakfast, it's certainly inclusive of young women who might not normally go to an event of this sort. And whether now is the time to start talking with you about how and when, and with other colleagues as well, but and whether it fits in with, for example, refugees, or our connections with France, with our Celtic connections, any and all of those kind of things, about how we can celebrate and enjoy, in the sort of pretty awful international situation that we're in, global situation that we're in, what good things can we pick out of that and encourage people to get involved in, really? And maybe it's a simple one-off, you know, 7:30 croissants and coffee, I don't know, but it may be the beginning of something anyway that we can then start building on over the years, if possible. So I'd just like to throw that into the mix, please.
I think potentially that's something that maybe we could look at with the events plan as well. What might be really useful? Oh, do you need some water? Can we? If she got some, all right. Oh, what it might be good to do is, because I think it's hard to sort of know what a project proposal could look like if you don't know what sort of money is out there and what we could potentially apply for.
That's always going to be the difficulty. You're never going to get there's never a static list of what money is out there and kind of how it's available. And also the external grant applications now have become unbelievably competitive. I mean, some actually illustrate on their websites the percentage chance, and some of them is down as low as 2% now. And that's been a real trend, and that trend, you know what I mean, AI has impacted that significantly, but also just kind of the situation we're in as a country of people reaching out for more, etc. So I think that it's about having the project almost as an idea with what you want to see coming out of that project, and then being as flexible as you can be to say, right, okay, can we adjust it slightly? Are we willing to compromise on this? Can we involve this organisation, as Councillor Martin said there, just by having a refugee organisation involved? Does that mean that then we have obviously more opportunities? I think my key thing is about not missing opportunities. You know what I mean? Not looking for the perfect opportunity, just not missing opportunities, and kind of being as... And then there is also, as an organisation, just becoming better at applications. There's some organisations out there that are really, really good at getting money, and it almost becomes a habit. They understand. I think one of the things, International Women's Day sounds like a fantastic idea. It'd be great maybe to think about what partners in the town could lead on that, because us as a town council, we can be quite limited as a local authority in terms of being eligible to apply to certain funds. Obviously charities have access to near enough everything. CIOs, CICs, you know what I mean, have very good access as well. We're probably kind of next on the list with community groups for certain funded applications. So we do, but we obviously have things like very strong governance, very strong systems. So whether we can actually uplift other organisations, and the National Lottery are really, really keen on stuff like this, where they don't necessarily want to see a town council applying for the funds, they want to see a town council supporting organisations. And if we're talking about something like International Women's Day, where you can demonstrate some element of legacy where this is going to be in 2, 3, 4 years' time, that's the type of thing that a lot of the funding is, you know what I mean, the grant makers are really, really interested in, because they then see that you are supported from a functional point of view, which reduces the amount of risk. Obviously, they're under pressure in terms of their own budgets. They want to pass on some of this accountability. So they want organisations like town councils, like we have a really good organisation like Nuki Orchard, who have really strong background in using funding, but they uplift other organisations. So something like that'd be great to meet up and talk about that and see what organisations may be available to support that as well.
Could I make a suggestion? Sorry, did you want to come in? No. So I think it would be really good, and if the committee would be interested in that, if we maybe had, we looked at our kind of list of reserve dates for C&T meetings and maybe used an evening, because I think it'd be really important for us to have a bit of that strategic view of what we want to see funding ourselves, you know. So we've got our small pot of money, and then we've potentially got Kieran, who could help us facilitate some joint partnerships or some bigger external grants. for us to maybe sit down and look at what is the direction of travel. So do we have any key themes? Like, are there big projects? So if, if women's inequality is one, then we could say, well, this is what a potential project would be. And then we could also go out and try and encourage women's groups to apply to us for our grant funding as well. I feel at the moment it's a bit kind of scattergun, that it's like whoever knows we've got money, we don't seem to get any particular themes of people coming through. So is that something that we would be interested in? And then Anne, did you want to sort of say?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring in something that was brought to my attention a little while ago, and it's specifically around our grant funding application pot and how that's dealt with. Now, a lot of those grant applications come to this committee, and especially if they're over a certain amount. And over the last couple of years, there are a lot of C&T committee meetings that haven't gone ahead because they've been in Cora. So people that have put in grant funding claims for us for money then haven't been able to get the funding. So I think feedback has been that we've become a bit of an unreliable source for grant funding. So I think we need to look at the process so that if there is a committee meeting and it doesn't happen, that doesn't stop the grant funding application being properly reviewed. So whether we need that delegated down to specific people if a committee can't meet, but and then I think we need to promote that and we've put that out so that we are seen as a reliable source of funding, because I think that's the feedback that I've had, and that's not where you would probably want to be.
Definitely.
Can I just add to that as well? One of the things that I've noticed is the Cornwall Council have started using crowdfunder quite a lot in terms of as a match funding source. So obviously local organisations apply to crowdfunder. Once they get to a certain point, they're then eligible to have that match funded by a fund that's being assigned by Cornwall Council. Again, I think that provides two things. I think one, you are funding things that already are demonstrating that they have some support in the town. So if they've already managed to get to 50% of their target, and you've said that you'll match the other 50% or you'll match a particular amount, you know that there's already support in the town for it. I think the other thing is that it doesn't take away any of your ability to decide whether it's a good idea. You know what I mean? So it kind of allows you to keep control, but it's a kind of a more reliable way of than having the applications, and then you can decide how you want to organise that to make those decisions.
I was also part of something called SOUP. I don't know if anyone have heard of SOUP, but it's basically a project where people come along on the night, a bit like a participatory budgeting, if you wanted to give it a bit of a kind of jargon, but it's a way that you have an evening set aside where the community come along and vote for their favourite project, and then the funder would potentially sort of allocate based on what the community have actually voted for. And I know there's different, the Police and Crime Commissioners have done it, and various parts of the country. And again, thinking about our way we engage better with the public, people tend to want to come along and decide what projects get funded way more than they do want to hear us discuss for 45 minutes about the intricacies of the price of something. So that's something that we could maybe also look at if we did have a bit of this kind of grant strategy meeting. And obviously we'll speak to Liz as the chair, because I don't want to take us in a direction that she's not on board with. But it sounds like there's some really good ideas like that, crowdfunding, like SOUP, like community engagement, and having a bit more of a theme of what we're actually looking to fund, and us becoming, we really need to address that, a reliable funder that actually enables communities to do what they want. So I think as an action for the minutes, would you, do I have to get this, again, do I have to get this proposed and seconded? But would it be, could we agree to actually having a meeting set aside, even if it's just an hour or so, to look at our grant strategy for the year? Yeah? Great. Okay, I think we're all in agreement of that then.
I mean, if it's easier for everyone in the room, you could just have an informal meeting. If you don't necessarily need to make any kind of legal formal decisions, you can have it informal and kind of brainstorm it a little bit more.
Yeah,
that might be easier.
Without the agenda of anything else on the, Great. Okay, thank you, Kieran, for that. Was there anything else we needed to decide on?
I think I just had a couple of recommendations.
Yeah.
One was to provide delegated authority to the relevant director, which obviously is not in place yet, so it would be to the Deputy Town Clerk for funding submissions, so that we can put funding submissions that are aligned with the corporate plan and follow the priorities of community young people and relationships, so that, again, we don't have to bring them back to council, and that Joe would obviously liaise with the chair and deputy chair over those submissions.
Who should consult with the committee chair in the absence of that? So that was under point 3. So you're wanting to look at tonight whether we could agree on delegated authority for these linked opportunities, as long as they're within the corporate plan, outside of listed private projects. And the C&T to identify priorities for recommendation to G&R funded projects, and this to be reviewed. So I guess for point 2, we're making a plan to go away and sort of have a think about what our potential projects would be. For one, do you think we're in a position to agree that tonight, that we would basically agree delegated authority? And it says to consult, but in a consult, does that mean that I guess the decision's already made? Like, what's the difference between consulted and having delegated authority to make decisions? So even if you consulted with the chair and deputy, does the director then can still go ahead and do something we deeply disagreed with?
So I think the idea with this is there are a lot of opportunities, to hark back to something, that we need a decision like today. And we can't wait for a committee meeting. You're going to lose funding opportunities. That's the whole premises around this, and having this shovel-ready project. You need to be able to go before a committee meeting. And this is asking for delegated authority to be given essentially to 3 people. And it wouldn't have to be unanimous, but it would have to be a majority. And then it would go back to that committee following to say this is what had been agreed. So it's really the freedom to be able to put in some grant applications. At that point, the risk is fairly low. I mean, because you've heard about the percentages of successful grant applications, so you're not always going to be successful, so you're not actually committing yourself. But equally, if it's in line with your corporate plan, you're not unlikely, if you're going to get some free money to do something, to say, no, I don't want to do that anyway. So I think the risk is fairly low to be on at this stage, because it's only about putting in the application. It's not about anything else.
Okay, so we're basically asking that you've got a delegated responsibility for it, but it would need to be rubber stamped by at least the chair or chair and deputy.
It would be Joe that would have delegated authority.
Joe, right, yeah, okay. So you can't go off and just write whatever, yeah. and with consultation with the chair and the deputy, yeah, okay. How does the committee feel about that?
Could we try it for a bit? Because we're all new, and I think we just had this experience with the Christmas tree and then the lights, where it's like, oh, well done on designing Christmas tree and lights, but you did just spend a third of your Jubilee funding, and I'm just feeling a little bit like, oh my God, I don't fully know what I'm agreeing to.
I appreciate that. I think the difficulty that we had, my opinion would be, this is just purely for applications for money that's external to us. It's not money that we've already got, so we'd be asking for more money, and if we were fortunate enough to get it, if at that point there was some requirements, then there should be an opportunity to bring it back to committee. I think it just be that we had 2 or 3 deadlines that we really struggled with last year, because the C&T just didn't. What was it? I think one was ENF, one was C&T. That they just didn't sit. We couldn't. We were kind of. I was limited for because of the elections, close to 4 or 5 months. The only things I could apply for was the things that had already been agreed, and I was just literally writing applications that was pointless. So unless there's able to make decisions or adapt applications, then it's just going to really hamstring kind of putting things out there for external funding. And it's not agreeing the contract, but we still have to agree the funding once we get it, which would then be a separate. This is about applying for money so that we have money coming in.
Okay, that sounds like a bummer, and I'm sorry about the previous CNT guys not being around to like agree to stuff. So just for clarity, will we see like the shovel-ready projects and like be aware of them, or is it that like as funding opportunities come up that you weren't aware of, and so you're like, oh, this is amazing, let's like go for it. You're like cooking them up like there and then and like submitting them because that's better than not doing anything, and so you're asking for us to sort of say, yeah, we think you're sensible people and we don't think you're going to come up with any crazy ideas. So go for it.
It's a little bit both. I don't cook up anything. I rely on the people who actually know. So obviously if it's events, then it'll be Amy. If it's kind of environment stuff, then it'll be Joe and Joe Ashton. So these are discussions that are going on all the time. It may be related to estate stuff assets that are being devolved and stuff like that. It's kind of allowing this constant flow of ideas and allowing the projects to continually evolve or be put together if an application opportunity comes up, so that we get to a point of kind of just being ready all the time. I'm quite happy to share with you project plans. This list is updated literally probably 2 or 3 times a week, just to kind of keep a handle on where we are with different things, so that if something does come up, then we are kind of as ready to go. But there is still a lot of work that needs to go. Even when we get into 75%, we're still looking for things like costs. We've still got to go through financial regs of trying to get quotes and things like that. So there is still a lot of work. So probably you're not going to see kind of a finished version until there's a finished version, if that makes sense. And probably it's sometimes working right up to deadlines, and that's when the finished version. But you can, as I say, I'm quite happy to share with you projects that are in and being discussed. And also, I think one of the things that if all of a sudden, I think like with the TRIP fund, so the TRIP fund came up in June and we were given a deadline that was less than 4 weeks to actually put it in originally, and then it got extended. But it got extended 2 weeks before the deadline. So we were working towards a 4-week deadline. It then got extended by another 4 weeks. So then we could actually, if it had been the 4 weeks, we wouldn't have got that funding, because we weren't in a position at that point. And it was only the fact that we got this extra 4 weeks that we were able to then have a conversation with BID, sit down with them, come up with something that was actually really, really exciting. And that's the difficulty. We've got to look at the criteria for the fund and say, okay, what are they actually looking for? And that's sometimes the difficulty of bringing it back to committee, because if we bring it back to committee and they're going, well, we'd like to see a bit more of this, bit more of that, bit more of that, it might just not be as good a fit. And because it's so competitive, then that's great. And you know what I mean? And we won't be going outside of what's in the corporate plan anyway.
Yeah, and again, I think we could probably look at that when we have this like informal meeting about grants, so we can all get our heads a bit more around it. So did you want to come in quickly, Anne?
I just wanted to reiterate, it's with the chair of your committee. So, you know, as committee members, you have an elected chair who knows and is driving that committee. So you would hope your chair or vice chair of committee, who is integral to that, they can't be overruled by officers, is delivering what you want as a committee.
So I think what we're agreeing is that we sort of make the decisions about the type of projects we want to see that can then get turned into a project plan. You get the delegated authority as officers to then, if an opportunity comes up, you don't have to come back to us and say, can we apply for that project that you said you might want to see, that you've already got a bit of a direction of travel. Can we agree that tonight then, committee? Are we happy to?
I mean, I just have a few more questions. Is this a change of terms of reference or anything like pretty formal that we're supposed to abide by? I'm so sorry, Jessie, I'm just like so new.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's a fundamental change.
So I'll be really honest, the grants post is a really new one. It's been here, well, it's new for us. And a lot of that initial grant funding was taken up with a massive project, which was the Climate Action UK. And then there have been other projects that have come up. And during that time, we've had numerous occasions where we haven't been able to do what we needed to do because of committee meetings. So this structure, what you're seeing now and what Kieran has created is what is the first for us. it's how we're looking and how we're developing and how we're evolving, it can change. So if you decide something tonight and in 3 months' time it's not working, you can revisit it. But it's a case of we're trying to say, look, we've had this post in for a while, we're coming across issues. As a senior management team, we've gone, right, this is how we think we can get past that. We're asking you as a committee to endorse that so we can give it a try. It's never hard and fast. You can change it if it's not working, but it's about us being able to get more grant opportunities, which at the moment we're being restricted from. So that's where we are.
I think it sounds great, and I agree with what Jessie said about when we have our informal meeting. I think a really important thing for us as relatively new people is to really understand the direction of travel. That, when I was looking at the spreadsheet just then, some of the things in there just made no sense. Until you explained what Simon Armitage was, I was like, what a weird code word. So I think we need to learn a bit more. This sounds really practical, and having for you guys to have to come back to us, it sounds like the tail was wagging the dog a little bit. So I'm really happy to try it and maybe review it in 6 months or something.
And I think what it suggests is, in some ways, it's also looking at how good governance works with the obviously it's a real different people around the table now, and I do think getting those things right around what's delegated, what comes to us, how do we shape the direction of travel, but also allow you to get on and do your jobs, is a really important conversation that we can and should all be having and looking at. So I welcome proposals like this, and in some ways, seeing that as a bigger picture for the whole council it would also be really useful, so we can really do our jobs well as councillors. So thank you for that. I think we're in agreement. So again, can I have a proposer and a seconder for Kieran's proposal? Yeah, and seconder, and all in favour? And another unanimous decision. Thank you, Kieran. So we now.
I have one more.
Oh no, you're not allowed.
Hopefully, you remember in the informal meeting where we talked about the trip funding. Part of it was for a log cabin on the Killer Court, so the performance had somewhere to get changed. So obviously we were successful in getting the funding. However, the supplier that we're buying off wants payment up front. So I would like permission to pay them tomorrow, and pay them tomorrow, and then the claim will go in before the end of the month. So we should have them. I think the agreement with Newquay Bid is 14 days after they get payment, which should be the 31st of October. So we should have the money back in our account by the mid-November.
So it's a 1 month cash flow issue.
It's basically a 1 month cash flow issue.
Were you in agreement of that? Do we have to propose and second that as well? Yeah, could I have a proposer, please? And a second to Valerie, and all in favour? Yeah, great, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. We are now at 8:45. We still have a few more substantive agenda items. I'm going to suggest at this point that we may have to go until 9:30 tonight, because we've got a big budget discussion, and we've also got a business improvement district. And I do apologise, my first time chairing, I'm probably not keeping us to time in the way that I maybe could be. But I think it is really important discussions, and I think with every discussion we're kind of learning more as we go. So could I have a proposer and a seconder for us to extend the meeting till 9:30? I know it's the worst one to propose as a second, isn't it? Thank you. And all in favour? Right, thank you. Right, let me get back to my... I'm not going to use paper anymore. It's too confusing. Right, so next on the agenda, I think, is the bid. Is that right? The bid manager's report. He's put in a report. If everyone wants to have a little look through that, but there is also a decision that needs to be made tonight, which is basically around the bid itself goes up. Does everyone know what the bid is, by the way? I don't want to assume knowledge that isn't there. So Business Improvement District is funded by the local businesses. They put on loads of events, and in the bid manager's report that we get, it shows you all the things that they do, and that's all funded by the business community in Newquay. So they're basically, alongside putting in their report tonight, they're also seeking renewal, and the businesses have to vote of whether they want to continue to fund a business improvement district. So there's a bit of kind of democracy within there, and then if they continue, then they basically are, each business gives a little bit of a levy to the bid to basically spend on their behalf to do things like promoting Newquay, and the mural project is one of the things that they do. So tonight we get to basically, because the town council has a building, so we are also a ratepayer, we do have a vote of whether we want to continue to see the bid. And so we and I think we actually get 3 or 4 votes because of the size of the property. It's all based on this property here. So I don't know if anyone firstly has any comments about the Business Improvement District, their thoughts on it, their thoughts on some of the activities that they've been doing, and whether they're generally in favour or against or not in favour of what the bid are doing at the moment.
I'm just going to abstain myself because I worked the bid up until quite recently, so I'm just going to opt out of this bit.
Okay. Is that a declaration of interest?
I don't know if it's an interest anymore.
It's not an existing interest, but I think it's sensible, given the circumstances.
Do we have quorum, if that's the case? Are there enough? I don't actually know what the number for quorum is.
Yeah, the quorum is 4.
Oh, great. Just me. Could I just ask how much the levy is and what budget paying it comes out of?
I'll brief to you, Anne.
It depends on the rateable value, I think, of the property, and it's around, some of them are around £110 up to £200, so it's not a huge amount of money that we pay. We have 4 properties, I think, that are in the library, this building, Mountwise. I'm sure there's another one. I have a feeling there's 4, but you know, it's not a huge amount of money.
And it's not coming out of the Jubilee, is it?
No, it comes out of the same pot as rates, so it's rates and the bid levy.
I've never seen rates. Is there enough money in rates to pay for this?
There's always enough money in rates to pay for the rates bills, else we get in a lot of trouble, so you're all right.
Okay, cool. I am happy to hear that. Comments on bid. Since no one's made any comments on bid, I would rather live in a town that had this than didn't have this, because I think like there's a lot of facilitation that bid are doing, and it would just be an absolute pain to have to find someone else to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in favour of bid. I think what they do for the town is amazing. I think the events they put on and the presence of the rangers that they have going around town as well, it's made a massive difference. So I really like to support them.
Great. Valerie? Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think Mark's done a really good job. Every event that Newquay seems to have, you see him there. I think the business community have benefited from bid, and you know, from the murals to the zombie crawls to also the partnership working that I think seems to be going really well between town council and them is brilliant. So I'd be really in favour of one, supporting them, and also voting for their renewal. So I can, I'll second. And all in favour? Unanimous decision. Great. Right, is it over to Anne now? The moment you've been waiting for.
Yeah, here we go. No, honestly. So essentially, you've got a number of different budgets here. I'm happy to always answer questions or provide more information via email. And when I do that, I copy in all of the C&T members. So if anyone has a question, you all get the answer so that you can all see through those. And, you know, so that you can all learn together. So with the first budget report you've got, this is our year-to-date actual. It's only till the end of August because we're always a little bit behind by the time it comes to committee. So this is your actual variance. One of the things that I haven't done yet, but I am going to implement, is some of these things like rates you get charged in the beginning of the year and the budget needs adjusting. So there are some little tweaks that need doing within this, but all of the comments down the side explain why there is a variance, and there's just if there's any questions. Oh. Okay. So the departments that you've got in there is your CCTV. You've got your youth initiative, which was some money for some grant funding for youth if you wanted to go down that route. All of your events and everything that Amy is involved with now. The Newquay Town team, which is an external group that we have partnershiped with for grant funding over the years. So there's some commitment for that. Other tourism essentially is the trailer repairs, if there's anything to do with that. And then you have the TIC and the library. Now they're just the services, not the buildings, and that's essentially where they are at the moment.
So there's somewhere else the cost of the building?
Yeah, they come under E&F. These are just the services. But like if you want to take time to look at them, you can always email me or, talk to me. I'm not unavailable, if that makes sense, and I can answer questions. It doesn't have to be this evening, if you know what I mean.
The variance column.
Yeah.
There's obviously some which are red.
Yeah.
Is that where we hadn't overspent so far this year, or is that just like...
So the way the variance column works at the moment is any variance that's over £500, it will highlight it red. So basically, whether you've overspent or underspent, there should be a reason for it. So they're the ones that we get the finance team to look into with the managers, because we say, okay, you've got an extra £20,000. Why have you got that? Because whether you've got more or not, there should always be an answer. So that's why. So if it's red, there should generally be a comment which is explaining why there is a variance either under or over. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of people that understand the sheet better than we do, so it's not necessarily expecting us to be like, oh, your office consumables were so much more than expected. Yeah, weird.
So if you've got real problems, I'll be telling you. That's generally what my job is. I shall come along and go, right, you guys, you need to pull this in line or whatever. I do normally speak with the managers, and I have to say, when I first came, you didn't even have budget reports. You've got budget reports now, but they're not, I would say, utilised as they should be. But I think with the new structure that you've implemented in that will make a massive difference to your budget monitoring. So I think over the years that I've been here, I've been moving things to where I think they should be logically as well, because things were not. And you'll see that with the next year's budgets as well. I've completely sort of revamped them to where they should be. So we're getting there slowly.
So just, I don't know where it's printed, but there's the first column, the first two columns actual and budget, and then variance and budget. What's the difference between those two?
So your first column, which is green, is your actual for last year. Your next one that's black that says actual is your year to date, so that's to the end of August. Then you've got your budget, which is your budget to the end of August, so it's done on monthlies. Your variance is your difference between your this year's actual and budget. And then the blue bit is just your full year's budget, so that you're aware of what it is.
Okay, so which bit says what's left?
So it doesn't give you a what's left, because actually what you're doing is you're just looking at year to dates. So the other thing is, I used to give a committed as well, which tells you what's already been ordered and stuff, and then you give a variance, but you get a lot of different columns, and it's down to each committee, so you can tell me what you would like and we can bring it to you. But actually, from my perspective, it's about managers knowing what their budgets are, managers understanding what's within them, and there's some more detail in other reports. So, and giving you what you want. You know, at the end of the day, everybody wants to see something different, and some people are more financially minded than others. So this is what committee have agreed so far, but if you want something different, let me know and I will do my best. It's just, the thing is, when you get more and more columns, people tend to get more and more confused. But that doesn't mean I can't do it.
I guess it's just knowing if we're, yeah, so what you, this sort of says where you think we should be at this point in the year. It doesn't necessarily say what we then will have left and how far might be under or overspent. Because I guess you mentioned a few times that there was some underspent last year.
Yeah.
So how do we start to identify if there's going to be an underspend before we get to the end of the year?
Well, that's what these budget reports are for. That's why they're discussed with the managers, so that they can say what we tend to do when there's an underspend. So what happens with budget process, and the process is when you set your budget, you tend to go, these are all the things I want you to do in this year. But even at this point in time, we haven't had the resources to carry out all the things you've wanted to do in a budget. We just haven't had the staff. So what's happened is at the end of the year or throughout the year, we notice that all these things we can't hit all these targets. So that's when I go, okay, fine, that money there that was for 10 new park benches down somewhere, we're not going to do that. So I'm going to pull that out and put it in an EMR. So that the people of Newquay haven't lost your intention of what you put the money in the budget for. It will happen, it just can't happen right now. So that is part of all of the process that we do.
So that's a different EMR to Julie EMR?
There are lots of EMRs, lots and lots and lots and lots. People love their EMRs. I don't like you spending them.
Love that. No, I really like spreadsheets, so you can't take all my questions this evening because we'll be here until tomorrow morning. But I just wanted to use take one example so that I fully understand. So we have a note on security. Easter in school is out disco.
Yeah.
And the budget is £1,200. The spend currently is £180, which means that it's red here to say that there's been an underspend so far.
Yeah.
So does that mean that ideally we would try to do something with security? Or?
So essentially what happens normally with events is, and you may or may not have been aware of something that's called Martin's Law, which is requiring the council to have more security guards and first aid and things on events. That we became aware of a couple of years ago, and that will require more bodies and security guards on events. To date, we haven't had the right procedures and stuff put in place to action that. So we put the money in the budget to do it. It's not even enough. We're going to increase that next year, but we were sort of like increasing it year on year so that we get to where we need to be, because it is something. At the moment, we have a security guard who is employed by us, which is why it's not in here, but we are going to have to use external security guards for our events going forward. It's going to be a legal requirement. So that's why we haven't actually done it. We could have done it this year, but we haven't actually got around to it. And the other thing with that is, because it's very new, the people aren't licensed yet, they're not existing yet, so it's all very new for everybody, not just us, everybody across the board. It's not just councils, it's all events.
And so that understand we're going to earmark reserve for future first aid and security?
So now you're getting really technical. So normally, if it was just that security guard, I probably wouldn't do anything with it, to be honest. If it's not spent, it will just get swept into something called a general fund, so which is like your profit and loss account, if you like. If it's for something specific, like 5 benches on the Killer Court, I will EMR it. What I've tended to do with events, because this council tends to like to spend money in events, is at the end of the year, like I did last year. If you've got 13 grand underspend, I'd put it in your EMR so that it is there for you to use for your Christmas tree, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. So I'm a very, very big squirrel. I like to squirrel everything I possibly can, and that's why it's there.
Amazing. Okay, I understand it. Thank you so much.
No worries. So that's the budget, and this is the year-to-date budget. The next one on the list, I'm clicking on it. Now, this one is a list of specific codes. Now, within your budget that you've got, sometimes we have large amounts of money which are cover a number of different things. So what I like to do is give to you a breakdown of what the budget was and what it's been spent on. So you know where on that line you've got £4,000 and we've only spent 300. This, if it's specific, will give you that level of detail that you want. So if you're coming across something that you repeatedly don't know what it is, ask me and I will add it onto this sheet so that you can get the level of detail you want. Okay? So that's what this is. The next one, here we go. The next one is the same thing, but for projects updates. So this is for projects that are going on within the same budget, C&T. So it's more of the same. And then the final one, which you've got, is your first view of a really rough draft of your budget for next year. Okay, so what happens now is you have to, as a committee, recommend a budget to the G&R committee for next financial year, and it all has to be agreed before the end of December, and it's quite a long drawn out process. So I'm just going to grab a drink while I talk, sorry. What you need to do and what you will get tonight is a number of reports from managers of what they want to be included in their budget this coming year. And I give you that for you to have a look at. Now it's really yours, not everything will be in there, you will have your own ideas, you can consider it a wish list, but you have to start somewhere. So this is what you've got. The column on the document you're looking at is the green one, and this is what you've got. Now I have amended it since this agenda has been sent out. I have added in to C&T's budget because the terms of reference have been changed, the Christmas lights budget. Before, that was included in E&F, so I have added that in. And I have also added in some extra amounts to the, sorry, my voice is going. Added in some extra amounts to the events budget. I'm just going to switch to a different spreadsheet so I can tell you. I have, after tonight, included an extra £4,000 for the Christmas lights down at the Killicourt for next financial year that wasn't in there, so that's covered for next year. I've increased the security amount. I'm really sorry, it's going. I've increased the security amount to £4,270. I've also included a first aid amount for events of £2,934. And we've included £4,000 for a Halloween event. That's in addition to the items that are already in the report. I don't know if Amy wants to just save me for 2 minutes and just talk about those additions.
Yeah,
sorry, Amy.
No, that's right. Like I said, with the events getting bigger, there is more security that is needed. So the light switch on, we have 12 security guards Friday night. So that wasn't covered in the previous year's budget. So this is why we increased that. And also the medics as well, to come to the events as they're getting bigger. Halloween, we was looking, so we're going to go along to the zombie crawl this year, see how we can, see how we can help with that next year.
So I think one of the things that's really important for you as a committee is that, and this hasn't been able to happen this time, is there is normally an events working party which is made up of members of this committee, and they meet with Amy or the events coordinator, plan what they want to do for next year and plan all the budgets, and then a report would come to this committee. We haven't had the opportunity to do that this year, so it's very much the same as last year with a few little bits added on because Amy's only been in post 3 or 4 days. So, you know, it's very much a case of we haven't had the opportunity to do the full process that we would for this event. So where we've got a number of figures in here for different events, if a working party meets, say, within the next couple of months or whenever they meet, you could reallocate that budget as a whole to different events. So if it's not looking quite how you might want it, that's fine. You have an option now to me to say, actually, I want to put a bit more money in there. We might want to do some other things. And this is your chance to do that. But that's why it's essentially the same as it is for last year, apart from those little tweaks that Amy's mentioned.
I noticed on the agenda there's a big spend coming in terms of the website, but I can't see it here. Is that in the budget?
Website comes under GNR.
Oh, right, okay, so it's just not our budget.
No.
So we just...
Oh, yours, yeah. Sorry, the Visit Newquay.
The Visit Newquay one.
Where's that?
So, well, Visit Newquay, the only thing that would be in this budget is line 104, although that might have changed slightly because I have tweaked this, which is the £12,000 annual cost. The rest of it is coming out of an EMR.
Right, so the proposal for the proposal for the website is coming out of an EMR.
So the website report says that the build cost comes out of the TIC's EMR, which is what it's there to pay for a new thing, but the annual costs of that agreement is an annual website maintenance cost, and that is the 12,000 which has been in there for the last few years. So,
and how do we get kept up to date on what's left in these EMRs?
EMR reports should come to each committee with these. You haven't got them at the moment, but they should come to your committee meetings. So the third report you should have is one with an EMR. I can show you, oh no, I can't show you what it looks like. I'm happy to email you all round the EMRs for C&T later. I can do it tomorrow morning for you so you can see what's in there. I'm so sorry. I'm with you, sorry. I don't normally talk this much, that's what it is. So
I could ask a question that you can answer with like thumbs up for yes and thumbs down for no. So there's a line here for general grants where there's like a little dash. I'm guessing, and so there's nothing for next year. Oh no, my throat's beginning to tickle. Is that because that's not the general grants that we've just been giving grants out of? That's money somewhere else?
are you looking at line 57?
I'm looking at 39.
39, I'm just sorry because I have tweaked mine.
Yeah, yours is different. So it's
Tourism grants on mine is, you've still got £5,000.
okay.
Yeah, on ours it'll be 460, line 30, 4602, tourism grants on our version.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? Is that answered? Yeah?
I was looking at the income. That would be cool, wouldn't it, if we got those grants?
Well, that's the idea. That's why Kieran wants to be able to do his thing. Great. So it's just whether, as a whole, you've looked through this budget and if there's any changes you want to make to it, that you kind of have a think about it and let me know as soon as possible, because you'll want it on your next one, because your next one will end up being your final budget.
I think my only thought is on the grants, and I know in some ways we're a bit victim of our failure in terms of not getting that many grants through. But with a revised strategy and with us doing more community engagement, I would like that. I feel like our ability to really bring in partners and the way that if we do shift how we're working to get interesting projects coming forward, and even if we can't fund them, we can potentially provide support, or with Amy and other things. I feel like that not increasing even by 28 feels a little bit out of sync with potentially where the direction of travel might go. So is there a possibility that we could look to increase our grants budget, at least even by, a small, cost of living, inflation, like we're giving away less year on year?
What happens is you say what you would like us to put here, and I will adjust it as so. We will get to the end of the point where G and I look at everybody's budgets because they make a final decision, and they will say, you want how much? You can't have that much, you've got to cut your budget by 10%. And then it will come back to you guys and you'll go, okay, I've got to cut my budget by 10%, what are we cutting out of it? So at this point in time, it's the right time if you want to add something in and increase it, say, yes, I'd like to do that, please can you increase this line to this, and I will increase it. This is your opportunity as a whole to look at what you want to deliver, as a committee. So if you want to increase your grants funding, then say, obviously you can't have 50 grand, but well, you could ask, but I would suggest it would be going back for review, is if you want to increase it, increase it. You have the opportunity there. This is what, you at the end of the day, the members that has to justify the increase in the precept to the public. If you want to increase your money for grants so you can support more local people, and that's you're allowed to do that. So you just let me know that you would like to increase it to.
There's headings for income. So is it that we expect that we're going to get £16,000 from the sessions? Is that because people buy tickets, or no?
Where are we?
So on our one, it's underneath festivals, events and promotions. Then there's the heading total income. And then for, oh, maybe I've got it.
No, I think that one's income there.
Oh, that's from market source. Oh, so income isn't everything underneath this heading. Oh, I understand. We're spending 16,000 on the sessions. I get it now. Okay.
So the green line is the total for the bits above. The red line is the total for expenditure for the bits above. Or the orange line.
I see. Okay, I'm beginning to catch up. I love that you want me to, or like you're hoping that we'll have some really critical feedback, and I'm like, I don't understand what it is.
No, it's fine. I would rather you ask and get to understand what it means than not care. Try to care. I suppose the only other thing that I made a big change on this year is CCTV. We get a lot more money because we've renegotiated the true cost next year, recharge. But also I increased line 14-ish capital purchases from 10,000 in the budget last year to 17 going forward. And that's because we've eventually got to the place where we now have enough each year to replace 5 cameras so that they're replaced on a rolling programme. But actually there's a link that is, there's a link that's required for each camera too. We haven't put the money in to replace them. And they're starting to die, so we need to put them in on the rolling programme and carry them forward, which is what that increases. So we have made some savings in this. If you look at the Yuki Town team, so line 63-ish, because obviously I've updated mine, we put in £15,000 previously because they were an active grant application, which we had much funding for. I've taken it down to 5,000. Because there's nothing that I'm aware of at the moment, but they are a really active group, and I don't want to not have any money in there to support them because they are fantastic for the town. So, cut down, how's that bit there?
I can't see that. Is that line 44?
Line 63 on mine.
Ah.
Because we have line 44.
It's 44, yeah.
But there's no...
But I can't see a saving.
So you want to probably be looking at line 54.
Miscellaneous expenses or...
Sorry, 52. Sorry. 52, which is your overhead expenditures for the town team.
Oh, so that's everything from the whole town team bit?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So Anne said it was 15,000, it's dropped down to 5,000 for the next year. And incrementally.
The green column has a 5 on the hand, whereas it had a 15.
Yeah.
So the profit from youth, so the net income, the net profit from CCTV could potentially be allocated somewhere else in the budget. Is that right?
Well, it already is because it's an overall, it just acts as the whole.
Right.
But actually, CCTV, we tend to, that's another reason that I've increased it, because we need to be keeping on top of replacing our programme of equipment to be able to keep that as it is. So would you like to increase the grant funding, and if so, how much would you like to increase it to?
I mean, if the committee are in favour, I think we should really sort of push in. As long as if it's kind of within, I guess, community engagement and grants. Like, I'm not sure what line, because I'm thinking about these cuppers with the coffee with the councillor and some of these more community engagement type events. I'm not sure what line that would fit under, but I'm guessing they will. Do we have like a democracy and public engagement fund?
So you've got your mayor and civic events, which is normally for things like St Piers Day, mayor choosing, or mayor making for people that here. So, you could have a mayor that chooses to spend £4,000 on a big event for the town and have no money in there, or you could have a mayor that doesn't want to do that, and you could spend it in different places. But the idea has always been that money is there for mayor making, because it is the mayor's choice and his privilege, if you like, to make that decision at that time. So, it depends what you're wanting to put money in. Are you wanting to put in more grants to give to the local community, or do you want money that you want to do more events or community events?
For me, I think it'd be that participatory engagement type funding. So if we were to do these come along and vote for your favourite project type, like there's a bit of an innovation fund, or could you put in a line for like...
Well, you can just use that within your civic events. I can just write in there that there is £1,000 for community events, or something like that. But that's not a grant. It's not somebody applying for money. That's you wanting to do community events. So I can add a line and put that in for you specifically for that, and it can be a sum, however you feel you would like to do it. It might be you just try 1 or 2 this year, see how they go, and then build on that going forward.
Yeah.
So shall I call it community
engagement?
And I'll put that in line and I'll do that now.
And then with the grants, what do people think about sort of 25% uplift from 5,000 to 7,500 to allocate over the year?
Obviously, I'm totally in favour of it in principle. I guess it just depends on, like, if we have a set pot of money, like, what would lose out for that. But I think it would be a really nice thing for us to be like, we're like C&T are in full force and we are going to actually reply to your grant applications and there's more money. Might be quite a nice way to show people that like the town council really wants the town to be happy.
Yeah.
Something that we may have collectively missed is under line 20, you've actually got another grants budget, which was for community projects under youth initiative. So that's historically never really used. So
that's not the one that we've been deciding.
no. So that's another £5,000 which isn't used or hasn't been used.
When I first joined, that was taken out, and then last year, I think Councillor Wright asked for it to be put back in at £5,000 because she wanted to have the ability to support youth projects that came forward if they were there. So that's not been advertised. But again, if we're doing this whole process around something that's extra, so that could be your extra grant funding. Although I don't know whether Councillor Wright has a specific, she's not here tonight.
Something in mind.
That fund, so I don't know what is in her vision for that. How much would you like me to put in for community engagement? 1,500?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
And maybe just a,
You want the 25%?
yeah, or maybe it's another like a thematic. So I'm thinking about the Women's Day or inclusion. Like if we had a bit of that strategic or thematic fund. So alongside our community fund, we just had that, whether it was an extra 3,000 a year, so we could invite potential projects. So we said, right, well, women's empowerment is going to be the theme of this year, and it could be a wide variety of potential, but where we see that there's a real, I guess, gap and need based on what we're hearing and what the communities are needing. So I don't know whether it would help getting it through GNR if it had more of a narrative or a description around what that new line is, or whether if it's just an immediate uplift, they'll just knock it back. Having not gone through the process before, I guess it's...
They don't tend to look at the level of detail. What they'll say is, Precept is looking at being 100 grand more. We can't put it up that much. You need to make a 10% cut if you want to it. And it will come back to you guys and you then I'll say, right, you've got to make a 10% cut. You've got to cut there and round out here. What are you going to get rid of? And then you'll decide.
So it's better if we try and bump it up a little bit at the moment. Okay, so I think what is wise and prudent is that there is at least some inflationary increases in some of these things, and I think in terms of the story and the narrative and the direction of travel, what would the committee agree that kind of increasing the money that we can distribute to the community in this time of increase in need is in line with the direction of travel of the wider council? If people's precepts are going to go up, I think the community would appreciate to know that some of that's coming back to them in different ways.
So is the proposal that we're going to uplift the grants because we feel like the community needs it, and we're going to ask for an extra 1,500 for us trying to do a little bit more democratic engagement with the community? So I think that could be a solid proposal, and I think we need to have the thematic conversation, all that stuff. We need to tease it out in the informal, which I now have a long agenda for, by the way. So it's just those two changes that I'm aware of. Did anyone else say anything else?
Great.
So yeah, we've obviously got the other reports which have the figures in here, so there's one from CCTV. But essentially, if you're happy, that's what we'll move forward with.
Great.
So next time.
Thank you. Right.
I will save that.
So next on the agenda is the CCTV report. Finally, sorry, we've kept you so long.
Okay, that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay.
I also have some kind of illness going on, so sorry about the really deep voice.
If you came in without a cold, we're not leaving.
It's only just come on today, so. So my first part is the retrospective approval of the recommendation for the Chester Road radio link, and that was sent by email and approved. It was sent on the 15th of September and approved within that week at a cost of £5,963.14 ex VAT. Go on.
Quickly, Chair, before you get into your deliberations, it might be worth another extension of time.
Oh, yes. Okay, right. We'd need 4 people to still be here to stay quorate. Is there anything on the rest of this budget, on the rest of this agenda that is time critical? Yeah, which are the bits that are time critical? TIC. Okay. Yeah.
What charities after is just the retrospective approval.
Okay, so can we agree that, committee? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next recommendation is almost a carbon copy, but for a different set of radio links for the Henver Road links. They recently got, that was also in my email, they recently got soaking wet and are likely to reach end of life very soon, and it's the same amount as the one previously, £5,963.14.
Can we agree on that, committee?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You need to take that out of the EMR, don't you?
Yes, that one's come out of an EMR, which will need to go to full council.
Right. Anything else on that? Should we move to TIC?
Just quickly to get a vote on that secondary release for the £5,963.
Okay, right.
So that's a recommendation to full council.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
What about the rest of it?
You're welcome to stay.
I feel terrible.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I'd have known yours was so...
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry we've kept you so long. Yes, TIC. Oh, sorry. We do need to vote though, because I only extended the meeting till 9:30. So if we are to take this item now, I need approval from the committee, and I guess approval means that at least 3 of you will be able to stay, so we can continue to be quorate. Okay.
And can we agree that Val can go? Val is dying. I can stay, but I can't contribute.
As long as we're quorate, Val, I think, and as long as you can go at this point, that's fine, because we're still quorate. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, so we're in agreement. We're going to continue for another 15 minutes. Yeah.
Chair, could I just get a quick proposer and seconder for that one?
Yeah, proposer and seconder, please. In favour? Yeah. Okay, over to you.
Hi, so I think everybody was at the informal meeting that we had a couple of weeks back, I think it was 16th. So really, it's just to bring what we talked about for the Visit Newquay website to this committee, because this was where we would make the decision if you were happy for me to go, well, for the Visit Newquay to go out to tender for the Visit Newquay website, because we're looking to renew the website, which I think the information's all in the report on the costings, and we know that it's, going to cost over 3 years, it's going to be around 71,000 for the 3-year period for the Visit Newquay website. But what I have to say is that the Visit Newquay website is the destinations website. So if you look at the stats for where it comes compared to Visit Bude, Visit St Ives, Visit Truro, it's just so far above. So what I'm looking for from committee tonight is to agree that we can at least go out to tender to see what we get back from cost-wise, and that's basically all I'm looking for tonight. If you could agree that we could go out to tender. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is the reason that this is so time critical is that Sue's not going to be around forever, and she is the expert, so we need her expertise, and she's happy to do this. So we'd be really, really silly to lose that opportunity. So it's a tender exercise with the limits that we've included within the report, and then those quotations will come. Did we ask for delegated authority? What does it say?
Formally, grant delegated authority to the chair and deputy chair of the Community and Tourism. So it would be with Jessie and Liz
to appoint from the tender process. There is a formal tender process, guidelines that we have to follow. It takes a bit of time. We want to get that out so we can do that, get the chair and vice chair back in. They'll decide on, have delegated authority to choose how we proceed, and then that will go forward. There is money, so the money is there. There is a VIC EMR to do the rebuild cost, and there is £12,000 in housing in that maintenance of the existing site carrying forward, so there's no price increase of that within the budget that we suggested continue with that website. And that in the informal meeting, I was very much supported by the members.
On the pricing of it, do we advertise how much we have to spend?
Yes, we do.
Do you have to do that? Seems a lot of money, £70,000.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the budget,
It's like 12,000 per year.
Yeah, so we've got
So they're like the support, all the back end kind of stuff. That's what we pay 12,000 for a year.
And is there any, would people be competitive with their pricing? So even though we say it's 71,000, will they all come in and say, oh, we'll do it for 70? And how did we get to that number of 71,000? How did we decide that that's the amount we would go out to tender for?
So we've done what you can best guesstimate in terms of what other website projects that have gone on recently. So we've got a slide to test the market. We also have had some conversations with existing providers, but there is a wealth of people that this tender process goes through that will contact far and wide, and that's why your criteria for the tender has to be quite specific in terms of what you want, which we've done using the documents that we've within this information and documents in terms of what you actually want, because the destination management.
There's two. So we've got there's two sides to it. So there's a CMS and a DMS. So you've got content management system and data management. So that's why it's so expensive, because they have to talk to one another, and some companies can build one side of it and some companies can build another side, but we want a company that can build both sides so they both talk to each other and you get no support. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive than just an ordinary WordPress website or something like that. And it is the destination website, and it needs to be kept up to that standard, for that ranking, because if you search anything, it generally comes up first. And when you look at the stats that we've pulled off, these are absolutely true stats, and I think really it's proven its worth, and we need to keep it like that, and especially with Visit Cornwall going now. That's massive for us and for Newquay, so we will be top.
Also, just to pick on some of the kind of concerns, the previous administration had similar concerns in terms of the pricing. So it commissioned an independent consultant to kind of test the market, review our website, and they came back with the same kind of conclusions that a website of that scale and complexity, those are the benchmark costs that you're looking at in terms of a rebuild and ongoing annual costs. So it has also been independently kind of assessed.
Thank you so much for the informal meeting, because this is the first thing on the agenda that I feel like I truly understand, and I can actually just like say like I support this as a proposal. I could propose it if someone wanted to second it, unless there are more questions.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go.
In favour? Ask question? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to. Oh, if I abstain, it can still. I am going to abstain on this one, just in terms of the cost and my knowledge of sort of websites and other things and what AI is doing in the digital space. So I am actually going to abstain. But
is it worth asking when the independent review was done? How many years ago?
Oh, it was this year.
Yeah.
So to date information.
Yeah, yes.
But that still passes. So look forward to the next stage of the process. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Was there anything? Oh, there was one other item. I don't think we've covered the. There's a few yet. Sorry. Yeah. So we've done. So library service manager was a written report. Yeah, would definitely can park event sponsorship. Was there this marquee, the stretch marquee? I think we could probably give you an answer on that tonight, could we?
I was going to say you can just defer it.
Yeah, it's sitting in your it's sitting in the garage. It'll continue to sit in the storage. There's a marquee that but we'll go for the sake of ending a little bit earlier. I think we can agree to park that agenda item. Is there anything else that was time critical though?
No, there isn't, Chair. No. Just Councillor Hubbocks's agenda item, if you're happy to defer it or not. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Great. Well.
Well, your next scheduled meeting is Tuesday the 13th of January, but obviously you can have informal meetings as and when.
Yeah, we've got a formal November.
Okay. Yeah. So that would likely be. Yeah, it's probably be the 11th of. Would be the first.
Oh, we're the first Tuesday this time. Is it the first Tuesday? I don't know. We can let you know.
Well, we'll let you know. It'll either be the 4th or the 11th.
Yeah. So if we have because there is a date, there was a reserve date in October that was we are in October. I feel like there was a reserve date for November, but is that now going to be a meeting? Yeah, we'll need to meet there. Okay.
I mean, you might not need to, because if GNRC at the end and go, no, your budget's fine, I don't want to change it, you don't need to change anything. Because you're already recommending your budget to GNR already. So there's a small chance it goes straight through, but you won't need to meet again.
Okay, so what I think we'll do is we'll either put out a little doodle poll to the committee, find a date, and maybe we could discuss some of the community engagement stuff within that as well at that one. Are we doing that now? Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. Right, well, thank you for staying longer. I feel like we've got through quite a lot of substantive items, and hopefully we've made a difference to the people of Newquay tonight by giving up our evening. So, yeah, thank you very much. And And we've got a great Christmas tree to look forward to. Right, meeting closed.